But
Okay.
anyway, for our viewers and listeners, share about your journey to college. Like, who were your hype men and women as you were going through high school and maybe beyond? And I think if I remember correctly, you kind of had a windy road to get to college. So
I did.
share the whole candid truth.
Well, you know what? I was that child that I'm sure my parents were like, why is she that child? I didn't go straight to college after high school. I had been working in a management position with a company, and I was, really proud of the work that I was doing. And I wasn't quite ready to go to college. And so what I convinced them is for me to, kind of work. Let me see if I can just work in the, this management position, and they reluctantly agreed to it. But I will say it was hard for them, especially because most of my family are educators. My dad has always been an administrator for colleges. My mother was a speech therapist. My grandfather was a principal, at a school. My aunts was a speech pathologist. So that education is in my family. So for me to say I don't want to do that right now, I knew I wanted to do it, but I needed to take that pause. I did. So I always had that kind of, I had those cheerleaders, and I had them advocating for me to pursue my education and also to go in whatever I wanted to, go in, whatever study of that I wanted to go into. When I finally decided to go to school, my dad was so happy. I'll pay for school. Don't worry about it. I've got you covered. Well, I've been living independently with some girlfriends as roommates for, a few years at that point. And I asked him, well, will you pay for me for my apartment too while I go to school? And since I went to school in my hometown, he said, no, you can live at home, or I'll pay for you to live on campus. And I didn't want to do that because I kind of thought I was, I was independent. I had, lived my life in an apartment, so I wasn't going to do that. Right. So he says, well, you're going to have to pay for the apartment yourself. So I thought, clever me, I'll just find a scholarship, and scholarship will pay for school. My dad, I'll sign a year lease. I can find at least a year scholarship. My dad will pay for me to have an apartment for a year lease. And I've got it settled. And I found out that the pageant at my school gave away a 3 semester scholarship. Well, my naive thinking is you put on a swimsuit, you answer a question in a gown, and you do a little wave, and you get 3 semesters. No, I had no exposure or experience with pageants prior to that, obviously. But I went to the interest meeting for that pageant, and they told us it did give away a 3 semester scholarship, and these were all the things that you had to do, and that it was a part of the Miss America franchise. So whoever won this pageant, it qualified them to then compete in the Miss Alabama pageant. And I'm like, oh, so this is how girls get to become Miss Massachusetts or Miss, Louisiana. And also, they said, interestingly enough, because I went to Alabama State University, which is a historically Black college, there's never been an African American winner. I thought, wait, what? And at that point, there had been almost 70 years of pageants. Oh, yes, just about 70 years of pageants. I could not believe it. I was absolutely floored. And so I, in that moment, decided, well, that's not fair. So I need to become Miss Alabama. I don't just need to win Miss Hornet, but I need to become Miss Alabama so that it's fair. And then, other girls will see what the possibilities are. And I've always been this kind of big, audacious, ambitious dreamer. So it wasn't far fetched for me to think that. I just thought, well, you just tell me what I need to do to prepare to do that, and then I'll do it. And I ended up winning the Miss Hornet pageant, which was surprising to a lot of people because I was so new to it. And so I got my 3 semesters. My dad paid for my
Take that,
apartment.
Dad. Take that.
Exactly. I know it. He's wrong. I'm sure he was rolling his eyes like I can't with this girl. But so I go on to the Miss Alabama pageant and I make top 10, but I don't win. And it was for my school, they were thrilled because they never had, a girl to from Miss Hornet to make the top 10. And I'm like, Well, yeah, I made top 10. That's what you have to do to get to, to the title. So I was still of age, and so I said, well, I'll just compete in another one and come back next year and win. So I competed in the first preliminary. I know, just not never give up, which is why public relations has worked for me, because I can take a no and then come back with 10 more reasons why you should say yes. Um, so I competed in one pageant and I was first runner up. No problem. I competed in the next pageant, and these are little preliminaries that you have to that qualify you to compete, go back to Miss Alabama. I competed in the second one. I was first runner up. Now, a lot of people were telling me Alabama's not going to have a black winner. So you just focus on your education. And I will be honest, they weren't the dream killer people. They were realists. These were my professors, even my dad. He said, Toni, Alabama's not going to have a black winner. You just focus on your education. And I competed in a third one, and I was first runner up. Now, I oftentimes was the only African American girl competing against 22, 25 other girls. And so then I competed in my fourth one. I'm first runner up. At this point, I know I'm determined I'm going to get there. And so I knew the vice president of academic affairs, and you'll love this story. So I knew the vice president of academic affairs because I worked at a fitness club, a private fitness club, and he was a member there. And so I got to know him, and I'd go by his office and just say hi. And so I went by one day and I said, hey, Dr. Steptoe, I want you to know. So I'm running to become Miss Alabama. And when I win, they give all the girls a scholarship. I mean, a full ride and everything. And so when I win, all of these other schools are going to be vying for me to come to their school. So if Alabama State wants me to stay, then he said, okay, Miss Johnson, so what are you asking? I said, well, I want a full ride, I want books, and I want a housing allowance. And he says, okay, Miss Johnson, let's put this in letter form, but Alabama's not going to have a black winner. And I said, yes, they are. You watch and see. It's going to happen. And so we put it in letter form. They created a file for me. And so I go on to compete in my fifth pageant. I'm first runner up again. I go into the sixth one. I'm second runner up. The seventh one, I am thinking, I think everybody's right. There are only two more qualifying pageants for me to get back to Miss Alabama, and I age out at that point. And so I thought, oh my goodness. Well, I met Debbie Turner, who was Miss America 1990, who was emceeing the pageant when I was giving up the Miss Hornet title. And she heard my story, and she said, don't give up. Whatever you do, don't give up. Just keep going. So I competed in the seventh pageant, first runner up again. So now there's one more pageant.
Tony,
I
oh
know.
my God.
Isn't this crazy? Even Debbie said, first of all, I can't believe you've done this many pageants in 1 year. She had a similar story, but hers was over, I think, a 6 or 7 year period, maybe 5-year period. And so I go to the eighth pageant and I win. So this means I'm going back to Miss Alabama again. I am ready now. I am there. I make top 10 again at Miss Alabama, and I don't get any further. I am devastated. How could this happen? I was so ready to win. Well, there's the Miss America pageant and the Miss USA pageant. The director of the Miss USA pageant contacted me after the Miss Alabama pageant and Miss Alabama USA pageant. She contacted me and said, would you be interested in competing in my pageant? Which didn't have preliminaries. She just did an entrance fee or application and an entrance fee, and you go straight into competing at the state level. I said, nope, I'm done with pageants. I'm not some pageant bunny. This is ridiculous. Alabama's not going to have a black winner. My mom and my mentor tried everything they could to convince me to keep going. It's not happening. Please don't even talk pageants to me anymore. That pageant was 4 months later. 4 months later now, fast forward to October 29th, a gentleman who was a judge on the very first pageant that I was in, he called and found out that I had not been set myself up to participate. So he called me and he said, why aren't you competing in the pageant? And I said, I told you guys I'm not doing pageants anymore. He let me have it. He said, have you not learned anything? He said, you get yourself together and you get up to that pageant and you do not let other people dictate what you do or what you don't do. And so I said, I haven't even applied or anything. He said, call her. So I called the director and she said, Toni, I'm so happy to hear from you. I got your application, but I never heard any more from you. Well, my mom and my mentor had sent an application in for me months before, unbeknownst to me. So I was able to enter the pageant. So I go in the next day, do nothing to prepare. I go right in. I just the pageant starts. I make the top. I think that one had a top 12. Make the top 12, and then they do a top six. I make the top six, and then it's now to three, and it's me, one other young woman by the name of Kaylin Chapman, and another woman by the name of Anna Mingus. And Anna Mingus was the favorite. She had beautiful brunette hair and olive skin and green eyes, and she was the favorite. Well, they name, they get to naming who are the top three, and they name Kaylin as the second runner-up, and then they name me as the winner, making Anna the second runner-up. And I ended up breaking a 72-year glass ceiling on October 31, and it was the most remarkable moment. Um, and really interesting because it was a process that taught me about determination and a stick-to-itiveness and a resilience that was able to quiet the cacophony of voices that were saying Alabama's not going to have a black winner. But I was so married to my own conviction about what I believed was possible that I was able to keep going in spite of that, and then ended up, winning this title.
Well, okay. So first of all, she just dropped a bunch of golden bombs, golden nuggets, whatever. So I hope you were taking notes if you're watching and listening. But Toni said, and I know she didn't mean this, or maybe did. She said that she didn't went in and wasn't prepared. You hadn't prepared. You had been preparing for
Exactly.
many years before,
Yes.
right?
Many
And
months.
so, right, that's the saying, luck is
Right.
preparation, meaning opportunity.
Yes,
And
exactly.
if you are prepared and you had been preparing and preparing all of those times. And
Yes.
what is so the way my brain works, and and your hype book, I should have brought my hype book. I have my hype book too, and I write down my wins. But
Awesome.
you said it taught you so many lessons, and the stick to itiveness, and just silencing the voices that were telling you otherwise, like to stop, and
Yeah.
you kept going.